Hi, everyone. Hi, welcome to Leisrealtalk. All right, I was going to give you an in-depth analysis of the Chinese PLA's maneuver, the struggles between Xi Jinping and Zhang Youxia tonight. But then I feel compelled to first give you a comparative analysis of the death of two young men in China and the US. So we'll first talk about the death of a young man in the US and another one in China before we talk about the political struggles in China. Okay, so the death of this young man has shaken the United States this week. And across the Pacific, the death of another young man has rattled the world's largest communist state. Both were in their 30s, both were famous. So this is okay. So Charlie Kirk, a young conservative leader, was assassinated on Thursday while holding a campus debate in Utah. His death shocked the world. In China, just hours later on Friday morning, an actor, a well-known actor who is a Uyghur descent. He's a singer and actor. He also died, shocking the Chinese. You wouldn't, the rest of the world doesn't know him, but the Chinese do. So his name is Yu Menglong. His good looks didn't bring him good luck. In China, handsome men and women are often treated as playthings for party elites. So after starring in a couple of movies, Yu rose to stardom. He was first pursued by a powerful woman. He refused and as a result was sidelined in the industry. He was later pursued by a powerful man, and Yu tried to avoid that too. Rumor has it that he was lured to a private gathering Friday night where he was sexually assaulted by that man, that big shot. Afterward, the man handed him two Rolex watches as hush money or compensation. By 6 a.m., Yu had fallen from a building. When his body was found, the two Rolex watches were still with him. We don't know the circumstances, whether he felt shame or was devastated and took his life. We don't know. But the police quickly dismissed any foul play. Now, Charlie Kirk's death is the result of a political divide that never should have existed in a democratic country. Yu Menglong's death, this man's death, is the result of a complete corrupt system and decades of CCP tyranny that ordinary people cannot escape. Both are tragic. In America, the struggle between left and right is bitter, but it shouldn't be life and death. In China, the struggle between the people and the party elite is life and death and can cost ordinary people's life. Now, in China, Yu's death first went viral. It was like the top trending news because he was a famous actor, but it was then deleted, silenced. Now, outside China, there was the post that in Chinese that gave the whole story about what happened to him, which is very dreadful. Now, let's talk about what happened outside China. Outside China, Charlie Kirk's death resulted in candlelight vigils held across the world in London, the US, Australia. Now, Charlie Kirk went to South Korea and Japan a few months ago to give speeches. He was especially remembered in South Korea, where people are fighting communism. So this is a picture in Seoul. Young people carried posters that read, We are Charlie Kirk, and also, Chinese no visa entry equals security threat. They're holding these two posters side by side. Now, people are mourning Charlie while protesting CCP in their own country. Unfortunately, the pro-Beijing president of South Korea banned conservative youth from holding anti-CCP rallies near the Chinese embassy, but allowed anti-American groups to protest in front of the US embassy over Georgia's crackdown on illegal workers there. In London today, hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets of London participating in the Defend Free Speech March. Interestingly, some Japanese were spotted. I saw videos of Japanese being interviewed there. Now, they flew from Japan to join the march. Japan is or was one of the safest countries in the world. Unfortunately, it stopped being that way. The Japanese are now concerned with their security in their own country. Just very recently, a Japanese girl expressing fear over the number of immigrants pouring into their country went viral in Japan. And today, we just heard that an Ethiopian man killed 2 Japanese men in Tokyo. So this is the world we're living in. I believe the real culprit behind many of today's political and geopolitical crisis is communist ideology and the ambitions of its largest organization, the Chinese Communist Party. Think about it. The largest communist organization is the CCP. From the war in Ukraine to the conflicts in the Middle East to Taiwan's insecurity, political divisions in South Korea, even to the murder of Charlie Kirk, the CCP's ideology and brainwashing are the hidden hand behind so much misery. Many already see the CCP's influence everywhere. I hear from viewers all the time describing infiltration in their own communities. You may remember my program on Prince Edward Island years ago. Where is that? These are the protests. Prince Edward Island, yes, in Canada. I did that program, I think at least 2 years ago, if not 3. Time flew. But there was a CCP-linked controversial Buddhist group called Bliss and Wisdom. I mean, it's full of scandal. I mean, this woman is indescribable. I mean, there's no word that can describe how warped this organization is. So they took over parts of the island, and their influence has been growing. Now, what I exposed was just the tip of the iceberg. The same Buddhist group is now buying land in New York, and their network, not just the Buddhist group, the same people are expanding into US territory. Unfortunately, local Canadian government nor US government are paying enough attention. And there are countless other examples: transnational persecution of dissidents, cyber attacks, industrial espionage, and also CCP's influence in media, in other industrial segments like supplements. I did a program on the health brands and also the food brands that are owned or partially owned by China. I think GNC, the largest supplement retail store in the US, was linked or is linked to the CCP. So in my early YouTube years, I covered these issues constantly. But in recent years, I've stepped back from chasing them one by one. Why? Because the CCP is everywhere. To track every footprint would consume all my time and energy. So I've been asking myself, what is the solution? And I believe the only real solution is to confront the root of the problem. to expose the communism for the evil it is. The CCP isn't just harming the Chinese people, it's harming people everywhere. I may not have said it bluntly or this bluntly before, but I'm going to say it now. Until the CCP is gone, there will be no real peace in the world. The good news is the CCP is already imploding. The bad news is when it finally happens, it will not fall alone. It will drag others down with it. What we're doing here is to minimize impact. We must raise awareness. Confucius once said, "A gentleman does not stand under a crumbling wall. 君子不立于危墙之下." It is our collective responsibility to warn people to stay clear of that crumbling wall. So I'll keep drilling down into the state of CCP's power or CCP's or Xi Jinping's grip on power and the fate of the regime. That is my focus because I think this is the most important thing. Rather than focusing everywhere, following its footprint, we need to focus on the downfall of the regime. So if you're new here, I invite you to subscribe to my channel. I'm continuing analyzing what's happening in Beijing and explain the whys and the hows. I know this is a long introduction, but it's necessary because without this context, we risk being distracted by the noise. And there's so many noises out there. We need to stay focused. Okay, now let me talk about the state of the CCP regime. When the CCP regime will end is tied to when Xi Jinping will step down. And the person posing the biggest challenge to Xi Jinping is without a doubt his vice chairman of CMC, Zhang Youxia. After the military parade, one question has been debated feverishly. Has Xi Jinping regained control of the PLA? I covered that in my last program based on factual evidence. You can watch the 11-minute highlight that we released last night. In that video, I laid out the arguments from both camps. But alongside the evidence, there are also speculative claims, some of which could be very valid and true. So based on leaks from different sources, here are some of the more noteworthy ones. The first one is PLA's elite troops has remained in Beijing. The Beijing garrison and then the 82nd Group Army, which is the main was the main force in the September 3rd parade, did not entirely leave after the event. It's said that Zhang Youxia left behind a special operations brigade or Lü. What's the English word? I think it's brigade. Yeah, Lü. So he left behind a special operations brigade under the pretext of protecting top leaders. But the real intention is to keep Xi Jinping in check. Even outside Beijing, things don't look normal. I just saw videos circulating online showing tanks, rows of tanks, not just one or two, rows of massive number of tanks moving on the streets of Tangshan, downtown Tangshan. They're not like on the highway or suburbs. On the downtown in downtown Tangshan, Hebei, which is only about 90 miles away from Beijing, or 150 kilometers. It's about 1.5 hours from Beijing. So that's significant. So the elite 82nd Group Army, which Zhang Youxia controls, never entirely left Beijing after the parade. It stayed there. And then another group is actively moving around Hebei. Hebei is very close to Beijing. That's point number one. Point number two, Xi Jinping's daughter, okay, that's a military. Okay, here, this picture is funny. I'm gonna laugh because I asked Chris to give me a picture of Xi Jinping's daughter, Xi Mingze, and he gave me this. And come think of it, we don't have a real picture of Xi Mingzi because I did a program on that. Nobody knows what she looks like. There's so many pictures claiming to be her, but not one is confirmed. So Chris gave me this picture, the girl in the center holding hands with the man on the wheelchair is Xi Jinping's daughter. That one is confirmed. So yeah, this woman is now what, 33 years old? Yeah, 32, 33, maybe 32. Anyways, so it's said that she is now working in Zhongnanhai in the general office of the CCP's Central Committee, which is the administrative arm of the party leadership. This is the office headed by Cai Qi. It is not clear if this is because Xi Jinping trusts no one else and has to rely on his daughter to support him, or because his daughter is being groomed for politics, much like North Korea's Kim Ju-ai, the daughter of Kim Jong-un. So we don't know what the reason is. Maybe Xi Jinping is running out of officials who he can trust or who is willing to work for him because he's on his way out. And he doesn't like the officials, maybe his opposition has provided him. So he's calling his daughter to come in and help. Maybe that's the reason. But another group of people believe that maybe he's training his daughter to be to step into politics, which I kind of disagree. I think it's the former. It's because he doesn't have anyone he can trust. So that's why he's calling in his daughter. Okay, and then the third claim is that people say there has been a dramatic clash inside Zhongnanhai. Zhang Youxia reportedly stormed into Zhongnanhai to confront Xi Jinping after learning of a deal between Xi and Putin. According to the leak, Putin agreed to deploy Russian troops near China's northeast border to create trouble for Zhang Youxia, and thus help Xi Jinping reassert control of the military. Furious, Zhang Youxia accused Xi Jinping of colluding with foreign powers for personal gain. It was quite bad that Cai Qi and Wang Huning had to step in to prevent a fist fight. So it said that these two guys had to step in to prevent a fist fight. Now, prior to this claim, we've heard rumors again that Putin went to China to help Xi Jinping gain an upper hand in the political fight, and that he confronted the party elders and Zhang Youxia of not toppling Xi Jinping. So is the latest development in Zhongnanhai the aftermath of Putin's help? We don't know. But it's said that the situation was bad enough that Wen Jiabao and Liu Yuan were called into they were called in to mediate. And so that's rumor number 3. Okay, and then there's the nationalization of the military. The PLA does not belong to the state. So the Chinese military is not the state's military, it's the party's military. So in the past, the nationalization of the military is a taboo. And anyone who openly discusses that will be punished. But now on WeChat, people can openly discuss the idea without censorship. And one user even tested the system by posting about it. And the post stayed up. It wasn't taken down. But in the past, such talk is banned. And one general actually landed in prison because of his belief in such an idea, and that's General Liu Yazhou. This is the man, right? So yeah. So if Xi Jinping still had iron grip over the PLA, this shift would never have been allowed. And we know the person who is most passionate about the nationalization of the military is no other than General Liu Yuan, who is now helping Zhang Youxia in their political fight with Xi Jinping. So this change again proves the whisper that Liu is very much active in military affairs, because if he's not, or if he was not, there's no way that people can openly discuss the idea that the Chinese military should belong to the state and not the party. And then the next whisper is very, very interesting. It's about mobilizing the veterans. So you see, even though Zhang Youxia has troops in Beijing, using the PLA to directly oppose Xi Jinping is not going to fly, because I mean it's a coup. It's preparing for a coup, right? So how can Zhang Youxia and Liu Yuan mobilize the military to against Xi Jinping without appearing to be staging a coup? And so Liu Yuan came up with an idea. He came up with a strategy, which in my opinion is a very smart one. So his idea is to mobilize China's vast veteran population. So 1 million veterans are said to be organizing under the slogan, which is, if fortune comes, do not forget your brothers. You know, do not forget your poor brothers who once fought for not for the country, for the party. Right? So this is a smart move to mobilize the disgruntled group in the PLA or in the PLA family to challenge Xi Jinping's rule without looking like staging a coup. It's a master stroke. So on the day as tens of thousands of PLA soldiers marched through Tiananmen Square on March 3rd, in front of the local government office of Honghe, Yunnan, groups of retired veterans staged sittings. Actually, I have videos. Actually, I'm going to show you. It's actually here. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Yeah, this is from Yunnan. We muted the audio because it has some music in the background, which could be problematic. So this is veterans staging their protest in front of the local government. And then in Yunnan, and then there's another group. This one actually wore uniforms. Where is that? Did they show? Okay. Okay, this is the one that wearing uniforms. This is also in Yunnan. Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm going to mute them. So you see that they all wore uniform, and they're talking to the local government about their grievances. And then that's in Yunnan. And now in Beijing, and that happened right around the time of the parade. It started on the day of the parade and continued afterwards. So one of these events was on September the 3rd, and one was on September the 8th. And then this... So this man said it's September 8th, 2025. These people are...
这是山西吕梁转业志愿兵，现在在北京西站。
So we are veterans from Shanxi, and we are at the railway station, the west railway stations in Beijing.
这外面都是吕梁街坊的，都拦住，出不了站。
We're being blocked here. We cannot exit the train station.
看看这是战友们，这糖尿病多年。
This veteran has diabetes for many years.
还有做了心脏支架的，
Some had heart bypass surgery.
还有脑梗的、脑血栓的，一些战友都60多岁，
They're in their
现在
60s.
车站不让出， 都在车站内
We're being
找着了。
prevented from leaving this bus terminal.
他们公正的执法，哎，不就是你们
今天是2025年9月8日7号晚上，马上就是8号。
This is on their first day. This is the 7th of September. This is when the video that you saw was on day 2, after they've been kept inside the terminal for a day. This is when they first arrived.
我们是山西吕梁转业志愿兵，
We're
今天
veterans
来到
from
北京，
Shanxi Yuliang. We arrived in
被
Beijing.
火车上的乘警和吕梁的公安拦截在火车站，不让我们走。
We're being stopped by the police on the train, as well as the local police from their province, and they prevented us from leaving here.
全国的战友们看一看，这是山西吕梁的转业老兵。
And then this man said, "Veterans all across China, please take a look. This is veterans from Shanxi. I'm sorry.
这是吕梁公安，
Police from Luliang, from their town.
一些便衣公安。
Some undercover police.
现在我们被拦截在火车站，不让出去。
Okay, we're blocked here. We're not allowed to leave. So then you saw the beginning. This is day 1, and then they were forced to be, they slept on the floor at the train station. So it's very sad. Now, over the years, veterans in China are a severely disadvantaged group. They've organized protests over the lack of medical care, benefits, and job opportunities. If you Google like veteran protests, you will see so many videos showing that across the years. Recently, though, a new pattern has emerged. Young veterans in their 20s vanishing without a trace. I mean, the veterans you saw in the videos are older, the people in their 60s. But the young veterans in their 20s have been disappearing. Their families have been posting desperate pleas online. So, for example, there's Li Hongbo, 29-year-old, disappeared in Guizhou in June. And then Wang Yanchao, 24, vanished in Shanxi on July 7th. Jing Taiyang, 22, went missing in Henan. So, and then there's a Liu Yingqing from Shanxi. He took a train on July 10th and has not been seen. Most of these disappearances happened in Guangxi province. And now Chinese are asking the chilling question, is this tied to organ harvesting? Because after all, in early 2024, 4 hospitals in Guangxi were ranked among China's top 10 organ procurement centers in China. Organ procurement centers for transplant, of course. If it's not for transplantations, why do you need to procure organs? So out of China's top 10 organ procurement centers, 4 are located in Guangxi. So people are now asking, is that why so many young veterans are disappearing in Guangxi? So we're just seeing this. We're just seeing the videos of veterans going to Beijing or going to the local governments to protest, but we don't know how it will evolve from here. Because if the strategy is to mobilize the 1 million Chinese veterans to, to protest or to ask for changes, then it's going to be very powerful, because this is the group of people who are very well organized. The veterans stay closely connected in China, so they're well organized. So if Zhang Youxia and Liu Yuan implement this strategy, then it could have tremendous impact on Chinese society. So we'll wait and see. Now, today, another bombshell dropped. Remember during the July 2021 Zhengzhou flooding, I did program on that. I did a number of programs on that. That was 2021. During the flood, large numbers of people were trapped in subway tunnels and also in underground tunnels in their cars. And it was even in rush hour when floodwaters swallowed the entire tunnel and also entire train, drowning most passengers in that train. Now, a former Chinese journalist has released videos and images showing that once bodies were carried to platform, these drowned people, their corneas were removed first. And another influencer, his name is Su Xiaohe, who is an economist, who's also active on YouTube. He added that rescue teams on site did not save lives, but harvested eyes from these drowned people. And he made the claim 4 years ago, but few people believed him at the time. Now, with these disturbing images out, people are shocked. Life, I cannot show you these pictures. It was just too bloody. It was unbelievable. So think about it. Now people are discovering that life in China has become a living hell for ordinary citizens. So the question is, when will we see the light at the end of the tunnel? We know Xi Jinping is the last CCP leader. If you haven't watched my latest program in Looking Glass, please check it out. I went into this very issue in that program. So this struggle between Xi Jinping and Zhang Youxia has created a kind of balance of terror. Xi Jinping doesn't dare move directly against Zhang, and Zhang cannot move against Xi. The stalemate is like the Chinese expression, 投鼠忌器, meaning you want to strike the rat, but fear breaking the vessel behind it or the vase behind it, right? So here, Xi Jinping is the rat, and the CCP regime is the vessel. If either side acts rashly, it could split the party, even sink the ship altogether. The party elders know this, and it terrifies them. Their thinking is Xi Jinping cannot be allowed to run wild, but neither can he be easily removed. Otherwise, the CCP ship will capsize. So that is why we should not pin our hope on the party elders or Zhang Youxia. I believe the people themselves need to make a decision. And I think people are fed up. I mean, they're beginning to rise up. Going back to the Chinese actor who died, Yu Menglong, he isn't alone. I did my research today. There are other well-known Chinese actors who tried desperately to escape sexual advances of both powerful men and women. That is unfortunately the reality for men. For beautiful women, the chance of escape is none either. But they're harassed by men mostly. But for men, they're harassed by both men and women. Now the Chinese netizens are frantically trying to find out who that big shot was that led to Yu's death. And guess what? The latest rumor out of Beijing is that it was Xi Jinping's brother, Xi Yuanping, who is said to be bisexual. I doubt this claim is true. I personally do not believe that, but in a way, it does not matter. What matters is that people are venting their anger by blaming Xi Jinping and his family for everything. Their mentality is this: if you censor the truth and won't let us know what happened, we'll blame you for everything. And that in itself is very powerful. Remember the $1 million car crash in Australia? The 23-year-old mysterious woman whom people claim is Xi Jinping's secret daughter. The truth is, we don't know whose daughter she really is. But the Chinese overwhelmingly believe she is tied to Xi Jinping. And that belief alone is dangerous and threatening for the regime, right? It's similar. People just said, okay, forget it. If you're not gonna, if you censor everything, if you delete everything, then we're just gonna spread rumors saying that it's you, it's your family, somebody from your family who did it. And by the way, I want to tell you that, remember this guy, the minister of CCP's International Liaison Department, Liu Jianchao, who has now been confirmed by multiple sources by a media in Taiwan that he was indeed taken down for espionage activities. Reportedly, one of his mistresses turned him in. This lines up with Professor Yuan's earlier claim that Minister Liu had prepared to, or already had, handed over the CCP's secret plan with Putin, targeting the Trump administration to Washington. Professor Yuan said it was Liu's secretary who reported him. After being taken into custody, Liu denied the charges and accused the woman of being the mistress to his rival, Minister Wang Yi, China's top diplomat. In any case, the latest confirmation shows that just like Qin Gang, the fallen foreign minister, who had an affair with Fu Xiaotian, the anchor woman from Phoenix TV. So Minister Liu is equally mired in scandals of espionage, spying, and womanizing. The two are mirror copies of each other, Minister Liu and Minister Qin Gang. So how can this regime not collapse when its officials are so corrupt? And remember, both Qin Gang and Liu Jianchao, the man on the screen, were appointed and promoted by Xi Jinping himself. So, I mean, it's like I said, how could Xi Jinping not fall when everyone on his team is corrupt? Every official is corrupt. So it was hard for me to come up with the right thumbnail for this program, because I intended to tell you there are more information I have to tell you about the PLA and what Zhang Youxia and Xi Jinping are up to, but I ran out of time. But I think the introduction is necessary because it's important to address that. All right, that's all I have. Let me see. Have I lost everyone? Okay. All right, let's see. Yeah, Chris, if you can copy the links for people, one is on the PEI. If you could copy the link on the latest Looking Glass video, and can you also copy the link from the PEI video? We did two on the CCP's infiltration in Prince Edward Island. That would be great. All right. All right, let's see. No questions, no comments. You know, I suddenly my videos did pretty well a couple of months ago. I got a lot of views, but recently, suddenly the views tanked. I don't know what happened. I think my topics and quality are consistent, but suddenly, like, it's almost as if like nobody's interested in my topics anymore. The views suddenly just tanked. I don't know what has happened. Ptolemy Salamanca, Lei, the PRC's influence on our university is well known, but many politicians still deny it. Do you believe there will be a breakthrough as a result of the tragic murder of Charlie Kirk? I don't think we should pin our hope on our politicians. I think we need to raise public awareness. Just like I said at the end, if we pin the hope on Xi Jinping, the anti-Xi Jinping faction within the CCP, I think that's wrong. That would be the wrong approach. I think it's up to the Chinese people to decide what kind of government they want, what kind of future they want. Same thing should be said about the US. I don't think it's, I mean, although it's good to have an administration that's more in line with protecting the freedom of speech. But I think in the end, it's the awakening of the public that matters. So we cannot pin hope on the Congress passing more laws if people's heart don't change. I said this yesterday to someone. I don't even remember where I said it, but I said the solution is in people's heart. Laws only limit people. Laws, regulations, rules are not the solution. You know, I mean, in the US here, we tend to believing we have a good system. When we see a problem, we try to pass a law. But that's very restrictive. In the end, people's hands will be all tied up. We can't do anything because there will be laws that restricts something. I think the awakening has to come from people's heart. Yeah. So we need to make an effort to raise public awareness. Yeah. So government officials, of course, we should elect government officials who support the freedom of speech. I mean, if someone is killed because of his opinion, then this society is no different from communist China, because only in communist country you're being locked up for your opinions, for your thoughts. So we can turn the United States or other democratic countries into China. They're laughing at us. You know, the CCP is using that against us. They're saying, you say that you have freedom of speech, you do not. So the CCP stir this up, right? Its infiltration and propaganda has brainwashed and poisoned our young people in the US. And then when tragedies like this happen, then the CCP will turn around and make fun of American democracy, to say, what democracy you have, it's fake. You're no better than us. So you see how evil that is. I'm sure there are a lot of brainwashed Chinese who think that, America is no better than us. Look, someone get killed because of different opinion. And then they probably are being brainwashed to believe that, it's even worse. It's more dangerous over there because people have guns. At least in China, we don't have guns, so we are safer. I mean, that's seriously what a lot of Chinese will be made to believe. Someone asks, many Kaila, is private land owning prohibited in China? No one owns, private citizens do not own land. They have a lease right of 70 years. When they own a piece of real estate, they have a 70-year right to use it. At the end of that, you have to renew your lease. So no, there's no private land ownership. Okay. Okay, Lee Shepherd. I've been watching China Uncensored almost exclusively for news from China. As much I enjoy the GAN, I appreciate your perspective and straightforward approach. Yeah, China Uncensored, they took a satirical approach to China news, which is good, but sometimes it could make people feel like they're not very serious. And I think I can be funny about it because these are very heavy issues. Actually, my biggest struggle doing this is, how do I stay positive? How do I remain positive when everything I cover is negative? But I think they're doing a great job. If they can remain humorous, I think that's great. But it's not something I can do. I do not have that ability. In the early years of my YouTube life, I tried that. Didn't I? Yeah, I made some cartoons about the CCP, but life in China has been more and more miserable. So I cannot be. I have lost my sense of humor, I'm sorry to say. Someone asked me, Kevin Job, how long do you think that would take to happen? I love all your videos and content. How long do you think? It's a very tricky question to answer. It could be as soon as October, because there are people who believe that at the upcoming fourth plenum, Xi Jinping will relinquish some of his power. He will give up some of his positions and therefore partially step down. And other people will take over. So that could be the beginning of something. So it could be as early as October, right? Because that's when the fourth plenum will take place. It could be as late as the 21st Party Congress, which will be in 3 years, in 2027, because it is Xi Jinping's plan to hold on to power until then. That's 3 years. But I do not think this regime can last that long. People are really suffering in China. You know, the latest thing coming out of China is young people are going to the vegetable, like market, what do you call that? Going to the market, yeah, that sell fruits and vegetables, to pick up the leftover veggies, you know. So people don't have money to buy veggie and fruits because they're so expensive in the supermarkets. So people go to the market to buy the leftover or the ones to be thrown away. Yeah, that's what people do. And it has become a trend, and not just poor people. Young people started it, but now housewives, and even people with decent jobs all go there to do that. And it's very sad. All right. Okay. Someone said, Lei, it's college football night. Is it? I love football. Of all the American sports, football is my favorite. But I don't watch college football. And I watch NFL, but I haven't ever since I started this YouTube channel. I have stopped watching TV. Classy Pete. Okay, Lei, you are exposing the CCP a little too much. YouTube and the CCP are in bed together, so you are probably being slid down the algorithm list. Yes, people told me that I'm being shadow banned. Our social media platforms, even X, some very outspoken Chinese dissidents complained about X, which is owned by Elon Musk, of banning some of their comments. So it's very sad, but that's the world we're dealing with. But nothing will stop me from speaking up. All right. Irene, like, part of the problem is that too many people have no idea how bad communism, dictatorship, socialism are. I know, so that's why we need to make them aware. Knowledge is power. I do not believe in engaging, as Chinese, Chinese are terrible at debate. Chinese culture try to avoid confrontation. Chinese are good at arguments, but Chinese are not good at debates. So I think it's a tremendous skill that Charlie Kirk has or had. And I think it's good to hold public debates with people who have different opinions than you. But I think more importantly, because we can't debate with everyone, I think it's more important just to raise awareness. There are many other ways that we can do this. Young people need to understand what communism and socialism is. And they don't understand what fascism is, So we need to, it's ironic that everything that they support is exactly fascism. But they're using fascism as an excuse to attack their opponents. So I think we need to be more patient with the young people, but we need to hold their hands and raise more awareness. I do not believe in confrontation. So, but that's just my view. Okay, comments from Irene. Lei, I absolutely agree. The CCP is everywhere. I had been wondering why so many countries have politicians pushing the idea of socialism so hard, because they've been influenced by the CCP. If you watch my last program, which I called Xi Jinping's curse, the countries that have the most interface with the CCP in the past 20 years are the most infiltrated. Yeah. South Korea is one example. Canada, Australia, Europe, Japan. So you ask me why our politicians, the politicians, it happened. It didn't happen overnight. It happened over the past 20 years. How many of our politicians and intellectuals and consultants went to China and really believed that what the CCP told them, right? How many people really didn't like what they saw in China? Of 10 Americans who went to China for business or for investment in the past 20 years, how many do you think really came out clear-headed and said to themselves, I don't like what I see here, therefore I'm out? How many do you think, what percentage do you think there was? 20%? 30%? I think no more than 30%. No more than 30%. Out of 10, only 3 came out clear-headed and saying there's something wrong. Or not only they know there was something wrong, but they made a decision not to be part of it. I think it's at most 30%, probably 10 to 20%, based on my experience. If COVID didn't happen, it will be under 10%. COVID woke up a lot of people. A lot of people knew that there's something wrong with China, or the way things are done in China wasn't right. But they didn't have the determination to pull themselves out of it, to say, I don't want to have anything to do with this because there's something seriously wrong. Most people would say, I knew it's not right, but I'll go along. And that's the majority, 90%. And then COVID came, and that woke up a lot of people. And I think that percentage is reduced to 30 to 50%. Yeah, that's my view. Based on everything I have seen in the past 20 years, my earring dropped. That's what I believe. All right. I'm going to take that one off. All right. Let's see. Wheezy Squeezebox. Okay, I watch China Observer, China Truth, China Uncensored, and China Show, and Leisrealtalk. Okay, wow. Leisrealtalk didn't brand her channel. Lei didn't brand her channel with the word China. Yeah, maybe one day I'll change my subject and talk about the West. Who knows? All right, so far let's focus on the CCP. All right. Many, Kyla, what country is least influenced by CCP? What country is least influenced by CCP? I think of the Western country, the United States is. Because I think the Americans have that cowboy spirit that's very unique. It's very good. Because the Americans are extremely honest and down to earth. So they're the least, compared with the Europeans and the Canadians and the Australians, they are the least likely to be influenced by the CCP, particularly the working class, the rednecks. That's what I aspire to be, a redneck, because of the cowboy spirit of America. So that's the Western nations. And then China's neighbors in Asia, I think Taiwan is. Even though Taiwan is the most targeted region or country by the CCP, it's probably the most resilient because of the continuous, endless harassment of the CCP. So even though some people are heavily influenced by the CCP, but there is a group of people in Taiwan, there's a group of Taiwanese who are very clear-headed about CCP's intention. So I think Taiwan is probably the strong, I shouldn't say the least influenced, but I should say the strongest in terms of its ability to counter CCP's influence. I think Taiwan is the strongest among Asian countries. And in the West, it's the United States, because we're cowboys, or we have the cowboy culture. Yeah. West Downers, will China ever have freedom of speech? Is that possible someday? Well, when the CCP is out, it will happen. All right. From Jim C. Lei, I heard that the US banks are leaving China. Also heard a lot of major airlines are canceling flights to China. Is this true? Yes, they don't have business. I mean, who are still flying to China? So they don't have the business they once did. So they are canceling flights. The banks, they ought to be, because the Chinese, I mean, the banking industry is state controlled. So, and then the Chinese are not allowed to, I mean, Chinese currencies are not allowed to be freely exchanged. So what's the point of staying in China, right? And then the state-owned banks are not going to share their business with the foreign banks. So there's no future for them. As long as the CCP is in place, there's no business for foreign banks in China. Okay. All right. Let's see. Wow, we have some participant from the mainland who's Tatiana D. What is the current state of Chinese economy? The current state of Chinese economy is beyond measurement. It's really hard to quantify, because when you talk about the economy, you need to quantify how bad or how good it is. But it's really hard. I think, like I said in my last program discussing China's economy, the local governments are becoming more and more truthful when it comes to publishing their statistics, because lying or faking their economic data has become a liability. Because if you say your economy is doing so well, then the central government is going to cut their subsidies to you. So the local governments are now becoming more realistic when publishing their data, which is a good thing for us, but not a good thing for the central government. So it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. But I think the biggest problem is the fast declining demographics. China is losing so many people. This is my, if China's population is cut in half, then all the planning, all the assumption, all the economic models have become obsolete, because you don't have that many people. Then all the models are wrong. And I firmly believe China's population is probably half of what the claim is. It's very likely it's only half of the 1.4 billion. So, all right. So many Kyla, why China didn't use Japan or France as models for high-speed trains? In Japan and France, they have rails and trains that work well. Well, China stole technology from Europe and from Japan. And, it was very foolish of the Europeans and the Japanese to let the Chinese, have access to their high-speed rail technology. And then China now makes these high-speed trains and then export them. But their high-speed trains are not as good. They're bad quality. And then when it comes to the crucial parts, they still have to import. They can't make all the components. So they still have to import. And because of the economic downturn, they don't have the money to import these components. So China's high-speed rail is in a dangerous condition, or is heading that way. Because have you seen videos people took from riding inside the train? It's shaking. All right. I don't know what happened to my internet, but I blocked out for a moment. But that's all. That's all for tonight. I think the internet is acting up. So we'll end it here. How's that? Everyone, enjoy the great weekend. And I'll see you next week. All right. Bye.